and Alan Lamb. I loved, wouldn't say I loved Darren Gough, but I enjoyed his cricket. I liked Angus Fraser. I thought Angus Fraser was a very underrated player. Nasser Hussain, I thought was actually before Michael Vaughan. I thought Nasser Hussain was the real start of the turnaround in English cricket, as well as them giving out central contracts. I think Nasser Hussain's spirit was really what changed cricket. Bit like how Alan Border changed Australian cricket and Clive Lloyd changed West Indies cricket. I think Nasser Hussain should get the credit for putting some fight, and not just fight, but a winning mentality back into the team. So I think that's where it really started. I love Freddie Flintoff. I loved Ian. I don't say I loved Ian Botham, but I respected him. Um, and yeah, England as a team, I'm always going to be tied to. As much as my West Indian background, I do follow England. It's just that we're a bit rubbish in the 90s. In the 80s as well, to be fair, they were pretty awful then too. Although I do remember in 1980, as a kid, and I'll get onto some history in a minute, I did watch a lot of England touring teams, well, one in particular, and that was a 1980, I think it was, 81, I could be wrong, team that came to the West Indies, and I saw both of them. I saw Boycott bowl with his hat turned around at Sabina Park. I saw Graham Dilly. I could still see his high leg kick coming from the north stand, from the press box stand, bowling. And I was sitting in the George Headley stand. I can remember Gooch and Gower and Gatting, because I think the West Indies respected those three. Even then, even as early as 81, they had a name, certainly in the West Indies. And Gatting, I just remember Gatting, Gower, Gooch, the three Gs they were called. I remember William Affy. I just remember the name. His name was Bill Affy, but they called him William Affy. I remember. I don't think Bob Willis was on that tour, or he went home injured. I definitely remember Robin Jackman. So that's my background. To cut a long story short, I haven't even shown you anything yet. So what I was going to show was how I kind of create my players and obviously share them on the academy. I don't think I'm the most popular by a long shot. I just think I'm quite niche. I think there's people like Waste Your Youth who are just a legend in my eyes, and you've got people like Blocker Dave, Mr. DC Connors himself, who I think his creations on previous games got me interested, as did Waste Your Youth. I think Blocker Dave was the first one though. And I started to watch what they were doing on Planet Cricket, which I joined years ago, but rejoined in 2017, and started to get inspired to start creating things. So I'm just going to show you my first sort of creation, really. So if I go into, I've got two profiles. One I use for the academy. If I can find it, here it is. So you can see I've got lots of teams. At the moment, I've just kind of almost finished doing Australia. With the Australian ones, I did borrow some. I don't often do this, but I did Gleeso 73 or Gleeso, Gleeso 73 in the academy, and made some really good bases to work from. I don't think I put too many perks in, so I just went around perking them up. Or his squads were quite thin, so I kind of made a bit more research and bumped them up. The theory behind my squads, if you see them in the academy, is that they represent the players who were at their peak in the 30s, not necessarily everybody that played in the 1930s. So if I just take this squad here, this is Australia, 1930s. Clearly Don Bradman played in the 1930s, but he also played in the 40s and the 20s. But what you won't see him in those squads. The reason behind that is that I wanted people to, A, find players in easily, number one. If they, say for example, they wanted to do test players, the 1948 Invincibles, they go into the 1940s, they would obviously find the majority of them in the 1940s, even though some of them played in the 1950s. I try and take the age 28 year, the year they were 28, because that's the athletic peak, and put them in that, whatever decade that birthday fell in. So you'll find most of the 1948 Invincible squad in here, and you'll find maybe one, which is Bradman, in here. I think it would be Bradman actually, and possibly one or two from here. I'm not looking at it closely, but maybe not. So each time I'll just go through each one and the reason behind my ratings. I just think it might be interesting and might help people rate, although I don't think many people need much help with it. It's just a case of Me just sharing what I do, really. I've done England, I'm doing England at the moment, and I'll come back to finish Australia. I think in England I've got up to the 1940s, and I'd already done the 1970s. Yeah, Tony Gregg. Like I said, some of these bases are Glassos. This particular base is off the Academy. I don't know who's to credit it to, but it's not mine. All I've done, however, is play with the stats. Majority of these are mine, but like I said, not all of them are. And if they're not mine, I just tweak them to become mine, if that makes sense. 1940s, I think the majority, if not all of them, are mine except Len Hutton. And what I'm trying to do is get players from all decades of cricket, for all the major test playing nations. Anyone with more than 10 test caps is in these squads. It's taken me the best part of a year, but I've enjoyed it. It's a big distressor. Even India, 1930s, all there. And I'll just talk to you about my little stories behind each one, because I play, every now and again I dip into and play a little game against myself, AI versus AI, and just sit back and watch it. I'm not very good at, I'm good at bowling on the game, but I'm rubbish at batting. I think it's the same for most. So I've got India, I've got New Zealand, all through the decades. Yeah. And, you know, I'll talk about how I rate them and so forth. And then you've got Pakistan, South Africa, which I really enjoyed doing because there wasn't a lot, so I had to buy some books and really dig deep. There's one player in particular I have to talk about very quickly. A guy called Frank Roro. Frank Roro, that's what I say. He is an interesting character, as are most of these players on this list. I mean, Hammond is in there just for, this is just the team I'm working on. Have you ever heard of Dick Abed? If for all of those of you who are retro fans. Or Bapu Ibrahim. Or the great Owen Williams. Kaya Majola. It's a good picture of him I done, I think. Crom Hendricks. These are players that are well known for South African historians, which I'm not. I'm only just doing my research now, and eventually I'll put that team out eventually. But I've always got a couple of teams on the go. But I've done South Africa pretty much all the way through, right up until today. Obviously, this is the play face ones that I've tweaked. Faf is a bit high actually, he's come down a touch. So does this guy. But anyway. So this is just my introduction. I've got 2 Verlanders now, because obviously there's a lot more play face characters coming out. Is it Rassi or Rossi? That's a bad Rossi van der Dussen, as you can see. It's not mine, but I found a better one recently from Waste to Youth. So I'll be replacing him. And this is where I'm going to start my first sort of thing. Will be with the West Indies and my reasons behind it, and you know what I know about each player, and as I go along I'll tweak and change ratings. This was done over a year ago, these particular ratings. I think this particular West Indies squad is from Blocker Dave, using my players, funny enough, but he's probably tweaked them to his liking. I just downloaded it again, even though they're my original bases, because I like the uniforms he put on them, or the flag. I can't remember why I did that, but anyway, I've got 2 1920s. So that's where I'll leave it for now, just to sort of introduce you to what my background is. Why I'm doing this is just for fun. Yeah, that's it really. So until next time, I will put another one up tomorrow. Thank you.